It is time for the final matchup here of day 2 of the QPL Stage 1 Finals. Welcome back to the desk, Lethal and Flea. It has been a long day. There have been so many incredible matches, so many incredible individual maps, some upsets, some surprises, and then also just some unbelievable performances. But this one will determine all of the players who will be playing tomorrow during the finals day of the QPL season or Stage 1 Finals. So, gentlemen, excited to talk about this matchup because two players who in their respective regions have done very, very well. And in fact, I think they both ended up 8-1 in their series records over the course of 13 weeks. But Flea, I'll start with you. Base versus cha1n. What do you think?
Interesting matchup, that's for sure. A very conflicting clash of styles, to be clear, right? Base, a very passive reactionary player, tends to stick to his gun, wants to position himself and constantly have an escape route at the ready, so cementing himself is really what he builds his game plan around. But on the other hand, cha1n is a much more aggressive, go-lucky kind of player, still of course tremendously intelligent and calculated, but he's much more inclined to pressure his opponent. And as you said, very similar histories during the stage, right? Base #1 EU, cha1n #2 NA. Really close games. I'm also looking at the previous time they played, which was way back in Season 1, Stage 2, the finals, and it was Base who came out on top 2-1, so this should be a close one.
Looking forward to this. Extremely pumped for the last series of the day. Base, as you see there, 8-1, like you mentioned earlier. And on the EU side of the Pro League, that's a huge statement. Most of them have been 2-1s, but that doesn't matter. The scoreline, in case of that, he's still won most of them, apart from Razy, that was 1-2. But yeah, like Flea said, he's counter-aggressive, likes to try and force his style onto his opponent. You know, can be quite passive at times, but just waiting for that right moment to inflict so much damage, and cha1n needs to be very careful. He hasn't played base a lot, but I'm sure playing against players like Dewey or Dramus, he has a little bit of a feeling of what he's up against.
Yeah, I mean, Flea, you said it, a clash of styles, right? And so it's going to kind of be a battle of attrition in that regard. Base is not going to want to budge. cha1n is going to want to turn the heat up and increase the flow a little bit. So a lot of this for me is ultimately going to come down to, you know, how the picks and bans play out. But there you see #2 seed, a very, very impressive performance. And that 2-1 loss against Base, you know, that's a reason alone to reverse those results and stay alive in the lower bracket. Eliminating Base would be a huge accomplishment, but it certainly won't be easy.
Indeed, it won't, and this is an important matchup for both of these players because both have come in the past close to greatness in the finals, right? Base, Stage 2 finals in Season 1, he made it until top 4, I believe, maybe top 3, came really close to finally winning his first big tournament. Ultimately didn't quite work out that way, and then we've seen cha1n end up in top 6, top 5 several times in a row. So both of these players are really looking to finally have their big break and put their stamp on the belt. And I think that that is one of the reasons that is making this such an interesting game. The loser is out of the tournament. The winner still has a shot tomorrow.
Yeah, cha1n is sore from
Well, let's take a look at the...
Sorry, go ahead.
Let's take a look at let's take a look at the picks and bans. And Lethal, you tell us what you see. I'm very excited to get to this point. Molten Falls, Deep Embrace, and Awoken.
Yeah, it's interesting. Molten Falls the first pick. Base has been playing very well on this map. Didn't do too well against cha1n, we saw earlier, which is why he dropped down into the loser's bracket. That was actually one of the maps. But using the Athena this time, using that verticality to try and stamp over his opponent in terms of cha1n. But cha1n does have the Anarchies. He's got to be very wary with the inject and, you know, all the possibilities he has, the wide variety of strategies he's going to use. Deep Embrace the kill again. But Base has taken that, and cha1n is gone for the Sorlag. So a little bit different than Awoken, BJ versus the Galena. And as you see, Base needs to keep an eye on the totems, keep them in check, make sure that cha1n doesn't leave him in any obscure places. But I'm sure he won't. He will stay on his toes, but he can't just, you know, stay to one side of the map or keep that top mid control. He has to lose it at some point. And as well as going for the items, just make sure he keeps him at bay too.
Very nicely and evenly divided series you have here, right? First map, both light champions. Second map, both heavy champions. Final map, both mid champions. So we're getting a bit of every single thing, and it is perfectly mirrored through and through. Not immediately seeing one player with an obvious advantage. Maybe that last map, Awoken, the BJ, is not what I would consider a top pick. Galena tends to do better on that map, but still very difficult to count base out even under those circumstances.
Yeah, I love what you said about the different champ types that we're going to see in each of the matchups. And also, you know, I've been pretty impressed, I guess you could say, with Base's Athena. The last time that we saw him play Athena was actually, I believe, on Koth, right? Which did not only allow him to get aggressive, but then also play into that defensive style that he loves so much. So really curious to see how that is going to play into his play style on Molten. So I think that this is going to be a very interesting one. Let's do it. Let's talk about predictions. Even chat is saying this is a tough one. We'll take a look at what they are, what they're at right now. A little bit more in the favor of Base, about 70. Well, actually, now it's 70% to about 30% for cha1n. What do you think, Lethal?
I'll agree with that. I'll agree with the chat. You know, I feel like it could be a cha1n 2-1. It's just more the fact that the way I saw Base play cha1n, he was really struggling. He couldn't even force his style out against cha1n on a map like Molten Falls, which is very rare. We don't really see him like that. And he just couldn't control him in any way. And cha1n plays quite similar in terms of how he wants to try and approach him as an opponent to try and get those frags early on. But it's very, very difficult. But as long as Base tries to contest these items a lot better in comparison to when you're playing against cha1n, could be a completely different story. But we know what Base is like. It's counter-aggressive, waits for the right moments, fights on his terms. But cha1n won't care about that. He knows he has a superior aim, but what can he do? Because, you know, Base is definitely going to play that range game on the first map.
I'm gonna go ahead and say 2-1 Base, mainly because of the fact that I don't think cha1n has anyone to play against that works quite like Base does. I think the closest thing on the NA side is probably Dewey, but other than that, I can't think of a single player that really mimics that extreme reactionary playstyle and that defensive fortress that Base can be. And for that reason, I do think that if Base can build a bit of a lead on any one of these maps, it's going to be very difficult for cha1n to catch up. So I do think that the Russian will take this one.
Definitely got a heart and head moment. I think my head says Base for exactly the reasons that Flea said. My heart says cha1n. You know, not only because there's a little bit of NA bias here, but he has done well. Yeah, I mean, at least I admit it, right? He has done well conforming to other players' styles. Yep. So it really is going to come down to me, whether or not cha1n is going to be able to do that, and I think we're going to know after map 1. So exciting game nonetheless. Our last one for the day. Flea, you can take the box over there. We've got snacks and the VIP suite for you to watch the game. Lethal and I will take this one. Lethal, certainly a powerful way to end the day. No doubt about it. Every single game that we've seen today, in my opinion, has been incredibly entertaining, and I am excited to see how this one plays out.
Mate, I'm pumped, hyped for this. I'm really excited. The first match could be a strong indication of exactly where we're going to go into this series. Very large map. I'm hoping Base does not play like he did against cha1n, like I mentioned earlier on. He needs to force his style early. cha1n is going to expect that. Flea made a very good point. No one has been able to mimic how Base plays. Dewey is the next closest. Maybe Drummers, because that's the same style, but just a little bit more aggressive. But even then, it's not the same. Just Base excels at wanting to fight in his terms. He excels to taking these opportunities and just being that counter-aggression he so desperately desires in so many moments on this map. But if he takes the first map, cha1n is going to be in a lot of trouble and he's going to be questioning himself on how he can approach this. But we will be going into map number 1, Molten Falls, to see if what we spoke up with Base, he can actually control the beast in cha1n, or else that Base may struggle and cha1n will take it.
Yep, and we're going to be following Base through his eyes here to kick things off. Got a spawn that allowed him to get that heavy right away. And I'm, again, very excited to see how these two lights will play here, especially with Base on the Athena. And so far, Base just kind of wanting to chill up here on the upper level around, you know, around that heavy. And the nice rail. cha1n doesn't have a whole lot right now.
Seems not, no. Still. That's the stack advantage. Manages to get the rockets. He is going straight back, but realizes that he's going to try bolted there. Took only a little bit of damage, but got the information he needs. Space is still hanging around that nail gun area, just waiting to see if cha1n does approach him. Looks like he won't be at the moment. And decides not to go through the telly, but goes for it at the last second. Good rocket, another great rocket there. And cha1n is so weak, has to back off. Base decides not to chase, prioritize the heavy, and now he's going to be flanking all the way around to see if he can catch him. Another good rail. This is his moment to try and clean him up with the LG. Still backing off. The injured doesn't go his way, but somehow with the LG, he managed to back off cha1n. It's now going to be a tied game. Both of them going into each other with the Styling shotgun, and cha1n, what a great rail to get that second frag.
Yeah, what an interesting exchange that first frag was. You know, I was surprised to see cha1n actually engage and want to take that fight, but stuck to it, used the inject in a very, very smart way, but then somehow managed to get that LG lift for the frag, and then follow up with the second one. You know, I saw that initial frag and I was like, oh, well, cha1n's going to be down, and suddenly he finds himself up by one. A wild start here to Molten in the first 2 minutes, and things kind of chill for a moment, right? Both players, they shake it off. Here we have the inject coming in from cha1n. The LG's coming out, rockets fired as well. Double, triple, triple is shot out, only a few of those hitting. And I believe, yeah, so cha1n has held the rail against Base right now, and I think the longer that he can do that, the better. Can safely make those shots like that one that we just saw. Let's see if he keeps up with it, and he knew his opponent was going for those doubles, and those health bubbles are just in reach, but cha1n somehow manages to get the rocket kill.
Great stuff there from cha1n. Again, a huge stack advantage. Backs away. cha1n looking to get that first rail. He does. Sure, he's going to get this next frag. Base is trying to get away. Just barely misses. But it doesn't matter. The damage has been done. Gets the Mega. He's going to try and get that top shotgun control. Decides to back down anyway to go a different route. Tricks Base, but Base does get around to push him back a little bit. So now cha1n has to sit back. Has the inject still. Not going to use it unless he really has to. Great first rail. Not going to go for the second yet. Use it to tribot to do more damage. Amount of damage from that tribot. Base is in a bad position. Grapple hooks up anyway onto the nail gun, but cha1n needs to now see if he wants to flank around, but also contest this Mega.
Yeah, I think that was a really smart move by cha1n disengaging there. I know after landing that rail, I think he knew, like, I have a chance for a frag, but also knowing that the grapple's in play and may not work out in his favor. Better to come back another day and cut your losses. It might actually get him this heavy. Not going to happen, but a rocket and a rail. Is he going to try to follow up on this one? He does, misses the rail, goes through the teleporter, going to try to reposition himself on this rotation. Over to the Mega. Rockets coming out. It's not up. A little bit of a mistime there by Base, but I'm not surprised to see him at least try to go for it. cha1n knew that he was going to have the time to kind of work and position himself there. Now it's going to all come back to this heavy.
cha1n, some decent rockets, but not getting enough damage done. Good rockets from Base, though. This cha1n needs to back away. Still got the inject. Anything backfires. Good first rocket, stopping him approaching that Mega. Base was planning to go there to stand on a light position and contest the Mega, but stopped him. Base has managed to get the rail off to keep the stacks even. cha1n is going to have the height advantage, but it's going to do the same thing as he did last time. Pretend to go through the telly to the shotgun and then flank round to the rail. Base expected it this time. Not going to fall for that twice in a row. Good rockets, some good damage, but cha1n still got a much bigger stack. Base has to back off. Mega is up in the next 7 seconds. cha1n needs to get there quick. He wants to contest it. If not, at least rail him whilst he goes for it. He decides just to leave it for now.
I do like how cha1n is playing this, but I think, you know, Base is a patient dude, right? Like, I mean, the way he plays, it requires patience, and he's kind of in this spot where cha1n just can't make a mistake. I mean, he's playing well enough that he has not made any right now. And Jack does come out. He's going to chase on this one, knowing his opponent went for the 2 bubbles again. He can't cut him off this time. Tries to land the rail or the triple. Neither of them hit. But, you know, it's interesting, the setup. I think as long as Base holds on to this 2-frag deficit, I think that he knows if he just waits for cha1n to open up one window of opportunity in form of a mistake, he will be in a position to capitalize on it. But cha1n is playing incredibly well right now, getting a nice rocket jump with some big momentum, gonna barrel in against his opponent. He missed the rail. You can imagine if he was hitting some of these shots that he's setting himself up for, that his frag count might actually be much higher.
Absolutely right. Problem is, like you said, cha1n's been faultless. Not really giving away much information, and when he does push Base, he pushes at such high speed that Base doesn't really have much time to react, and cha1n can get the first shot. I'm sure we'll see it a couple more times throughout the map, depending on if he wants to change his style. He has 3.5 minutes left. Still up by 2 frags. He knows Base sits in that same position every single time. I saw him do it earlier, and he's just doing it again. He needs to change his motives. Waiting, cha1n still above him, still has the inject. Heard him go through the telly, misses the rail sadly, but now Base will be the one with the heavy soon. I'm not too sure if cha1n is going to contest it. It looks like he's going to go up top anyway. Decides to do the same thing again, go through the telly, go towards the rail, but he's just going to back away and let him have it, which is completely understandable.
Yeah, it is understandable. I'm not, you know, he made an effort to go for that mega, didn't get it, but then also giving up that that heavy, I'm not sure I like it, and there's the mistake that Base was looking for. I would have loved to seen cha1n go back and at least put himself in a position where he wasn't going to give up that heavy. I think that was kind of a mistake considering how much control he had over those major items. But there's, you know, he's still in the lead. There's still 2.5 minutes remaining in this one. You know, but Base, that was exactly the opportunity I think he was looking for.
Got Silver burning the hourglasses. Good rocket. Waiting to see if he flanks around, but no. Not going to happen. Base waiting for the next light. Heavy's coming up in the next few seconds. He may not get it, but at least he can try and keep him back. But saying that, he could get it now. But cha1n is just dropping down straight on him. Commits suicide. Base ties things up. Still has a decent enough stack to now try and push for this next mega, which he's going to do. He has the LG in hand, but it's not looking too good. This could be a way for Base to take the lead. cha1n goes off the map. See you later. As Base has 1 frag lead. He's tempted to go up and try and increase it to 2, but could this be the wrong choice? Yes, it might have been. The rails, though, from cha1n to tie that up. He had to hit them both. He did. Base directly above him. The change of pace is completely different from what we saw in the previous minutes. And now there's only 1:20 left, and it's a tied game.
I mean, we watched 7 minutes of perfect play on both sides, and then 2 unforced errors by both players. cha1n's to give up his lead. Base maybe a little too aggressive, which is a little surprising considering his own playstyle. It's probably going to force us here to sudden death. I'm not sure. We'll have to see here, as we are going to have Base flying in to grab that heavy, and he's going to go for it right here. And wow, the aggression pays off, and he gets the frag 4-3. I'm a little flabbergasted by this one. Base gonna likely get a follow-up. The mega is there for cha1n, but now he's got 40 seconds to try to chase around this grapple queen, and that's gonna be a tall order.
Sure is, says cha1n is looking for the LG too, but managed to grab the heavy. He has the stack. He's just got to try and find Base. Waiting patiently to see if he's going to be underneath him, but goes up on a top shotgun. He doesn't want to take this fight. He's hoping that cha1n doesn't chase him down, but he does. Is this his moment? No, it's not. Base managed to increase his lead. He's only got 5 seconds left, and that's way too short of a time scale. cha1n may get that next frag, but it's just not enough as Base wins up by 1 frag, considering how much of a great start cha1n had. Unbelievable.
I'm gonna have to say, I think the big turning point was that moment in which cha1n had full item control, at least a control that was allowing him to force base around. You know, he still had way more megas. Look at the screen here: 10 heavies, 12 megas to his opponents. Actually, now it went away, so I can't see it, but less or more than what base had. And it was in that moment where both the mega and the heavy was grabbed by base, and that was the big turning point right there. And you know, it's hard to play. You're in the lead, you're like, I got 2 frags, I can work with this, I got some risks and I can take, but then it can just turn around that quickly. And you know, I congratulations to base. He played it very, very well, aggressive when he needed to be, but I do think that that was the big turning point, and cha1n kind of handed that game away.
Yeah, especially the frag when he was on top shotgun. He used the inject, but he was hoping that base would just take the bait, make the assumption he just ran away towards LG or Rail, but instead cha1n stood there and ran back out, and base was just being so patient, just hoping that even if he uses the inject, he'll just peek straight out. But yeah, sadly for him, base didn't take the bait. He just stood his ground, and it's like, well, if you use the inject and you get away, I'll just flank round straight afterwards. But instead just went straight into him.
Yeah.
So cha1n, not gonna be too happy about that. Showed a lot of map presence during the first, 6 or 7 minutes for him, and base just walked away with it. I was just worried that base normally stands in the same positions and holds the same angles, that cha1n is just going to realize that from the research I'm sure he's done in order to work out what base are going to be up to. You can see he had done, but it still just wasn't enough as base still took it. And looking at the rails, 50% rail from base, 42% from cha1n. We'll have to see how this map number 2 goes.
Yeah, we will, and we're going to move on to Deep Embrace with base on the keel and cha1n on the Sorlag. And in previous matchups, we've seen cha1n favor the keel on Deep Embrace. So interesting, because he kind of knows the potential there, but I do think Sorlag is the right pick in this particular situation. Don't let yourself, don't let happen what happened earlier, where we saw the mid champs just get absolutely shredded by these grenades. And this should be an interesting one, and a big one for cha1n, right? He's got to win this one to keep his tournament life alive. Otherwise, base does some digging, puts cha1n in the grave, and he advances on here in the lower bracket. So we're going to be kicking this game off here in just a moment. Base has a chance to close it out right here and to walk away as a survivor for day 2. cha1n might take it to 3. Take it away, Lethal.
Wouldn't be surprised. Base haven't seen him too much on this map throughout the tournament. He just had the mobility, but he needs to be careful with base's kill in terms of the choke points with those pineapples, especially around the heavy. Already base setting up camp. He's pitched a tent, just sitting there chilling, waiting for cha1n's next move.
Oh, I kind of love it already. I'm not sure why. But, just camping next to the fire, keeping warm. It's very cold on Deep Embrace. I don't know if you were aware, but Heavy's up, just lets it sit there for a little bit. And Mega was just grabbed there. Now the Heavy's going to be picked up. And look at this. Base right back to the campfire. Makes for a pretty interesting second map so far here.
But that's the thing, though. Base doesn't need to move. He's at the choke point. He's got the height advantage. He can just chill there whenever he likes, but he needs to grab some of his weapons, which he has done. Finally got the LG after a minute of play, and now he isn't there anymore. Good first rail from base. Did he go for the second? No, he goes for the pineapple. Tries to get a bit of LG damage. Did a little bit of damage there. Tickled him with that pineapple. But now, waiting to hear where cha1n is going to go. He is going to grab the Mega, but at some point, base knows that with the kill, he needs to get back to that heavy. Pitch another tent again. See where cha1n's going to go. Good first rail there from cha1n, and base is still hanging around with that height disadvantage.
Yeah, and was right now the major items are just so close that you've kind of got to pick one or the other. We get a nice grenade coming out there, followed by a rail, and both of these items are about to be up. It looks like base is going to make the rocket jump for it, misses it, gets stuck on a stone there. The spit did come out, and there's no grab on the Mega. Is cha1n going to go for it? or use it to potentially bait his opponent. Base is very aware that cha1n is above him. He's going to try to sneak underneath, and he's going to go for it, getting both of these items. cha1n does hit a rail, but Base grabs it and gets out of there. I think what's super important about it now is that we're in a situation where this fight over this heavy is going to be crucial, because the winner will get a heavy and then likely be able to set up here for Mega. Base is forced out with 57 points of health, and that means that cha1n could grab it, but he's going to go on the hunt for it, and he does. LG for the first frag of the game.
Great stuff from cha1n. Took a bit of time, but he got it in the end. Base looking for the trade frag. But cha1n knows all about that. Realizes that the 50 isn't there. Just in time as it spawned, manages to pick it up. But he's not going to go for the Mega. Understandable. Doesn't want to get baited out by Base, but Base is already down there, waiting for him to pick it up. Now let's grab it. Not uncontested, just sadly that cha1n missed that rail. He's going to go straight for the heavy though, come up in the next few seconds. Base is looking for at least a rail shot, 32 HP, and the 2 for 2 as he went across the rockets. He's looking for the spawn, new spawning shotgun. Is he going to clean him up with the LG? Yes, he does. Great stuff from Base to catch him on spawn, but he could catch him again with the LG. It's not looking good for cha1n. Base has still got a good enough stack to take this, even though he hasn't got the stack, but he's got the weapons in his arsenal. And now Base is looking to push to see if he can find cha1n. Knows he's at the rail area, waiting for the heavy to be picked up. Gets one rail, he's so weak. He can get railed again though. He's trying to get out with his life. And cha1n still trying to survive. Gets a rail of his own. Will he get another? No, he won't. But Base is going to stay top mid. Both of them go for the 50. And Base is the one who gets it first. Gets the rail. Looking for the spawn. But manages to get away.
That whole play happened in slow motion. Like, you could see cha1n going for it, and then it was just time slowed down a little bit there. Some really interesting plays coming out here, and I like how Base is approaching this game. We've got 4 minutes and 15 seconds on the clock, and you know, cha1n hitting the shots, but kind of struggling with how Base is approaching this one. Finally gets hit, Base gets hit with a few rockets and is forced to back off. Going to get a light, and has a reasonable stack. More grenades coming out. 2 of those hitting, and a rail to follow up, and that is why Keel is devastating on this map. Just phenomenal.
Yeah, he's not even abusing the pineapples a lot. He's just biding his time, waiting for cha1n to make the first mistake. Like Base normally does on most of his maps. This has the top mid control, similar stacks. His rails has been on point. Sadly, he missed that one, so he can't go for the challenge. As Base, again, just continue to bide his time, get that top mid control. He's had it for most of his game. A rail of his own from cha1n. Not looking to push yet. He wants to get the heavy first before he makes any aggression happen. As Base, still very early for that Mega, 15 seconds. Just going to hang around the shotgun to see what he can do, but needs to work out what he can do to at least approach him.
Yeah, I mean, there's figuring that part out, and then it's having a clean fight with them, right? Because Keel can just sort of barrel in off of the spawn if you've done the right amount of damage. And sitting on the top, 52 points of health, you can see that there's a reason why he perches up there. It's kind of hard to hit even when you're attacking from that angle, and Base not only gets away, but he also grabs the Mega, putting himself back in there. There's a light as well, and he's, you know, right back in fighting shape once again. Great rail as cha1n tries to make the jump from the heavy window, and he's got him locked once again. Base just doing a great job now controlling that center that he's up a little bit. He's got 3 frags in the lead that he can work with, and so this is the place you want to be, right? You can hear damn near everything. Your opponent picks up an item, you're going to know where they're at, and you're going to be able to have a plan of attack.
What can cha1n do underneath when Base is top mid, just walking around everywhere? He doesn't know where to go, and when he tries to get away, he makes it too obvious with the audio cues, and Base just hits some easy rails. He's done it constantly throughout the entire map, which is why it's still only 4-1. It's not really a high frag game, especially on a map like Deep Embrace. But he's taken another rail from cha1n. cha1n just looking for a window of opportunity, but there's been barely none. Base is not giving him any opportunities here. He's just dodged that rail barely. Mega is coming up for Base. Huge stack. cha1n needs to do something now. He's in a great position to make something happen, but he can't drop because of Base's LG, but decides to drop now. Great timing. We'll be able to make something of this, but he misses the rail. He needs to hit some of these. He's going to go back for him anyway. This could be his chance. 61 HP. We're able to clean. No, a direct and another one doing an extra 10 damage. We're back to square one here,
Yeah, you know, the other thing too is that Spit hasn't really done anything for cha1n this game, right? I mean, maybe some minor zoning, but it has not been a factor for Base at all. He's just kind of, you know, either avoided it or it's just never come up in as an advantageous utility for cha1n yet. Now, cha1n is very, very low, and Base is just going to shave a few additional seconds off the clock, and rightfully so. He's got a 3-frag lead. This is exactly when he should start stealing some time away. He is trying to survive, and cha1n is on the chopping block.
Find him, no. He needs to make something happen. Great rocket. Another great rocket. Base's defensive play is just ridiculous. Gets to heavy. Maybe challenge here, but just wants to be careful. Gets the first rail. Will he get the second? No, he doesn't, but this is cha1n's opportunity to push it. Doesn't feel like he's got a big enough stack, though. He's going to back away, eat up all the lights and the health bubbles, whatever he can see fit. Go for the mega, but he's running out of time here, He's got 90 seconds left. He needs to make something happen. We know what Base is like in the dying moments, and it looks like he's going to go for the challenge. He's got a huge stack, and if he wins this fight, he can maybe go for the next one, but look at the damage from the pineapples and the rocket. I don't know how cha1n managed to survive all that. He had a big enough stack, and he's waiting for him to push that rail, but you saw that Base realised they want to take that 50-50, goes the other way instead. Needs to try and kill off this next minute.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the Base's advantage, right? Like, if your opponent has to chase you down, that makes them susceptible to grenades, as there's 2 that he immediately has to dodge right there. Again, that's 5 seconds, 10 seconds shaved off, and cha1n's doing a great job here. A couple of very nice bounces with the rocket, follows up with the rail, gets another one, but he's so low after that fight, and he can't really re-engage without at least putting some fuel back into the tank. He still needs 2 frags just to tie it up, just to hope that maybe a sudden death is possible.
But this is the problem with the default stack of kill. It's going to be very hard for cha1n, even if he wins his next engagement. Gets to first rail, needs to hit the second. Got to hit this one, cha1n, if you want to make something happen during this map. But look at this, Base gets away. And if he gets taken down after the respawn, I don't think he's going to be able to catch it. But the pineapples come out. He's done so much damage. He's on 21 HP, 15 now. Yeah, it's just way too much here. His Base took that quite comfortably in his own hands, always fought in his terms. Didn't have a huge amount of map control, but enough to keep cha1n guessing. So great stuff from Base. Nice 2-0 victory.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great game. Great series from Base, honestly. You know, I feel like these 2 players are so close, and it all just came down to the decision-making and each individual map. Definitely, I just am going to keep on favoring Keel on Deep Embrace, period, right? I mean, just such a strong champion, and in the hands of any of the great players who are left here. And, you know, I'm just going to always be putting that as a win in Keel's column. Well, let's bring Flea back, because I'd love to hear Flea's breakdown of game 1, right? It was most certainly in the hands of cha1n. What do you feel like went down there?
I mean, just 2 points. 1, Base absolutely is not a one-trick pony. Anyone who thinks that this man can only play defensively is completely wrong. He showed that so beautifully on map 1 as well, trailing several frags, playing a very quick, aggressive champion, and just absolutely forcing himself in the right position time and time again to punish cha1n when it really mattered the most. He made a few mistakes. The moment he went up the bounce pad at rail and cha1n just looped back around, you could see him screaming at himself, why did I do that? So Base, absolutely not a one-trick pony, And 2, the man is a god at defensive play. Looking at some of these situations on Deep Embrace, Base has like, what, 20 points of health, no armor, and somehow he manages to dip, dodge, duck, and dive away using a pillar, avoids chain completely, dishes out 200 points of damage, steals an item, and gets back in control when he has no business even being alive. The man played that to perfection. Absolutely mad.
Yeah, I want to add to that, Flea, as well. What you said earlier about no one can mimic how Base plays apart from Dewey and maybe Dramis, that is so true, because Base plays like that, but just that little bit better and a little bit more selfish. The only problem is with that second map, what can you do against a player who has the stack advantage and he's walking around top mid whilst you're underneath? You know, do you take the bait? Do you try and get away? And every time it did try and get away, it gave away the audio cue, and Base had at least 1 or 2 seconds to line up his rail and go, oh, thanks very much, that's free damage to me, that's a free 90, and I can go for the next item. He did it every single time.
Yeah. What a great series, though. Yes, for those asking in chat, that is the last series of the day. But don't worry. Everyone takes a nice rest tonight. They have a decent dinner. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what time of day it is anymore. But tomorrow we're going to be back with the final day of the Stage 1 finals. And there you see it. Wenger versus cha1n going to kick us off immediately following Rafa versus Razy. So I hope you are here early tomorrow, because some of the best games of the day are, well, is going to be every single game of tomorrow, including the grand finals to cap it off. $100,000 on the line to the competitors who are still left, as well as that beautiful belt that sits between myself and Lethal, just a little bit out of touch, but one of these players will get closer. Gentlemen, what are you most excited for tomorrow?
Wow, where do we begin? You know, every single match is going to be like a grand final again, isn't it? Like, you know, even some of these players in the upper bracket semis, when they drop down, they have to face Cypher or Base, and that's again some more great matchups. It's going to be absurd. Like, you couldn't make this up. This is what's so great about the stage finals. You know, everyone's against everyone, and it's more just due to the fact that there's so many great matchups coming up, and it's going to be another great day of Quake. It is going to be the last day, but it's going to be a long one, which I'm very excited for.
Of the matchups that we already know for certain tomorrow, I think my favorite one will be Rafa versus Razy, mainly because it's something that we have seen in several finals, grand finals in the past, and every single time Rafa just had an answer to anything that Razy could come up with. The American player from Liquid has really been some kind of a roadblock to Razy, who circles around anyone else in the league, but then he goes up against Rafa, and it feels like he doesn't know where to even begin. So I hope for Razy's sake that he's been practicing and preparing and coming up with strategies to beat Rafa. Knowing him, I think he has been putting in that effort, so tomorrow we'll get to see if it amounts to anything.
I cannot agree more, right? Like the Quake World Championships was special to see Rafa basically 4-0 Razy in the finals, because that was an epic win for Rafa. But I know that it left every Quake fan just with a little bit of like, but it was such a stomp, right? And so I think that we want some epic action in that matchup, and I am looking for exactly the same thing, Flea. I want to thank everyone who stuck with us throughout day 2 of the QPL Stage 1 finals. It has been an absolute blast. We have got so much more happening tomorrow, and you know, I can't even believe some of the games that we saw today. I am just expecting all of the fireworks here tomorrow. Want to thank the players who put their best forward in the Quake arena. Want to thank production, everyone from Bethesda, and we hope to see you tomorrow betting those channel points and amassing that massive bank. Thank you so much for joining us here for day 2 of the QPL Stage 1 finals. We'll be back for more tomorrow. It's the finals day, $100,000, and the belt is on the line. You don't want to miss it. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. We're out of here. Peace.